the most forgotten gang in Los Santos, and why they were erased explained. Los Santos has over a dozen active gangs operating across its neighborhoods. You've seen their tags, heard the gunshots, you've driven through their turf 1,000 times. But be honest, you can probably name, what, 3 of them? That's not random. Rockstar never wanted you to remember most of these crews. Let's be honest. This video is about gangs that were never allowed to win. Gangs that exist in the city but not in the story. Gangs that control blocks, move product, and die in the streets, but have no arc, no identity, and no real power. Let's talk about the gangs Los Santos forgot. What makes a gang forgettable in GTA? In GTA 5, visibility is not about numbers or firepower, but narrative real estate. A gang matters if the story acknowledges it. Grove Street matters because Franklin came from there. The Ballas matter because they're the enemy. Merryweather matters because Trevor hates them. But dozens of other gangs exist purely as ambient content. They're basically like NPCs. They exist to fill space. They spawn in certain neighborhoods, they shoot on sight, they wear colors, and then they disappear the second you leave the block. No sustained presence, no recurring conflict, no story that builds, just brief appearances and then silence in the script. Rockstar built these gangs to make Los Santos feel alive, but they never gave them a reason to matter, and that's the difference. In San Andreas, most gangs had weight. The Aztecas had Cesar, the Reefas had turf wars, even minor sets had context. But in GTA 5, most gangs are just set dressing. You forget them like traffic. The question isn't why they disappeared. It's how Rockstar made them invisible while keeping them in plain sight. The families, non-Grove Street sets, let's start with the most brutal erasure of all. The families. Not Grove Street, the other families. The sets in Strawberry, in Davis, in Chamberlain Hills, Chamberlain Gangster families, Carson Avenue families, Davis Neighborhood families, Forum Drive families, sets that wear green, throw up hand signs, post on corners, and functionally exist as background noise while Franklin's crew gets all the screen time. These aren't rivals. They're supposedly allies. Same nation, same color, same struggle. But you'd never know it from the story. Franklin and Lamar are from Chamberlain gangster families, the largest set also called the Hills or Killer Hills. They get the protagonist spotlight. The rest of the families, they get nothing. They don't even get properly named in the story. You see them on the streets, you hear them in ambient dialogue, they defend their blocks. Carson Avenue families control parts of Strawberry. Davis neighborhood families hold the northwest part of Davis. But the story never stops to acknowledge them. No leaders, no voice, no mission where Franklin reaches out to unite the sets or expand the empire. They're just green shirts standing still while the Ballas roll through. And Grove Street, the legendary set from San Andreas, gone. Lamar mentions it in passing during Hood Safari, tells Franklin that Grove Street used to be Family's Hood. Franklin responds, "Grove Street families. Man, long time ago." Lamar asks what happened to them. Franklin says, "Shit, I don't know. Could be dead. Shit, or could be CEOs by now." That's it. The most famous gang set in GTA history gets one throwaway conversation. No reunion, no memorial, no follow-up. The Ballas took Grove Street, the leadership left the lifestyle, and the story moved on. These non-Grove sets represent what Grove Street would have become without a protagonist. Stagnant, leaderless, fighting over nothing, forgotten while the city moves on. Varios Los Aztecas. The Aztecas survived an entire gang war in San Andreas. They helped CJ take down the Ballas. They held down East Los Santos through the chaos of the 90s. Cesar Villalpando was a main character. The Aztecas had identity, loyalty, legacy. Then GTA 5 came out, and they became NPCs. They're still there. You see them in Northern Rancho, El Burro Heights, Blaine County around the Alamo Sea, still wearing turquoise, tagging walls and defending turf. But the story doesn't care. They get exactly one named character, Ortega. He shows up briefly in Trevor's missions as a guy whose trailer gets destroyed. That's it. You can kill him or spare him. Either way, he's irrelevant. No Caesar equivalent, no bridge to their past, no acknowledgement that this gang has history. The Aztecas appear in maybe 2 story missions total. In Mr. Phillips, Trevor destroys Ortega's trailer. Later, they attack Trevor's meth lab in retaliation. Trevor and Chef kill them all. That's their entire story arc. And if you play GTA Online, they show up once in 2021 during a Lost MC meth deal interruption. One mission, a brief appearance, then silence. They exist purely as a reminder that Los Santos has a Latino underworld, but they don't participate in it. The Vagos run the drug trade. The Marabunta Grande handle the violence. The Aztecas just exist. Most players don't even realize they're the same gang from San Andreas. They stripped the Aztecas of everything that made them matter. Cesar, the lowriders, the anti-narcotics ideology, the brotherhood with Grove Street, and left them as living set dressing. A gang that survived a war only to become irrelevant in peacetime. That's how you erase a legacy without saying a word. Marabunta Grande. Now we get to the gang that should be terrifying but instead is just loud. Marabunta Grande. Salvadoran street gang. Hyper-violent. Expansionist. Ruthless. They're everywhere in East Los Santos. El Burro Heights, Murrieta Heights, Vespucci Beach. Always strapped and aggressive. Always ready to light you up for driving through the wrong intersection. But here's the problem. They have no face, no voice, no name you remember. Every other gang in GTA 5 has something. A leader, a deal, a mission, a grudge. Marabunta, nothing. You fight them in random shootouts. You see them standing on corners. You hear gunfire when you roll through their hood, but you never learn why they're there. You never meet a single member who speaks. You never get context for what they want or who they're fighting. They appear in exactly one story mission. Father, son. Michael's son Jimmy tries to sell Michael's boat to them. They steal it instead with Jimmy still on board. Michael and Franklin chase them down the highway. Franklin jumps onto the boat to save Jimmy. Michael shoots at them. The boat gets away. That's it. In GTA Online, they appear in some side content, arms trafficking missions, gang attacks, DLC updates. But in the main story, they're pure violence with zero identity. And that makes them forgettable. Players remember the feeling of getting shot in El Burro Heights. They remember the blue shirts, the full-face tattoos, the AKs, the shouting in Spanish, but they don't remember the gang, because Rockstar never gave them a reason to care. Marabunta Grande exists to make East LS feel dangerous. That's it. The Lost MC post-Johnny era. This one's different. The Lost MC were not forgotten but destroyed. In GTA 4 and The Lost and Damned, the Lost were a major force, a brotherhood, loyalty, bikes, and blood. Johnny Klebitz was the protagonist president of the Alderney chapter. The Lost had identity. They had internal conflict. They had weight. Then Trevor Phillips walked into their life and ended everything. In Mr. Phillips, Trevor's very first mission in GTA 5, Johnny confronts Trevor about sleeping with his ex-girlfriend Ashley. Johnny's a shell of who he was. Meth-addicted, skinny, defeated, his face gaunt from years of drug abuse. He tries to stand up to Trevor. He tells him to stay away from Ashley. Trevor snaps, smashes a beer bottle over Johnny's head, throws him to the ground, stomps on his skull until he's dead. The whole thing takes maybe 30 seconds. No ceremony, no boss fight. Just brutal, sudden execution. That's not just murder. That's symbolic execution. The Lost MC in GTA 5 aren't a gang. They're a humiliation. They're what's left after leadership dies and purpose evaporates. They're reduced to meth-addicted cannon fodder running dirt jobs for Trevor in Blaine County. And the game makes sure you know it. Every mission involving the Lost is designed to show how pathetic they've become. Trevor mocks them, kills them, uses them. They don't fight back. They barely resist. Terry Thorpe and Clay Simons, Johnny's old brothers from Liberty City, show up briefly. Trevor kills them too. Optional, but canon. Gold medal requirement, even. The Lost had an arc in GTA 4. In GTA 5, they're proof that arcs can end in total collapse. Most players remember Trevor killing Johnny. Almost none remember the Lost still exist after that, because by then, they don't matter. They're not a gang anymore. They're a punchline wearing cuts. Kangpe Korean gang. Here's a gang most players have never even heard the name of. The Kangpe Korean organized crime. They operate in Little Seoul. Small presence. Quiet operations. You see them occasionally on Ginger Street, near the apartment complex across from the car wash. They wear dark clothes. They keep a low profile, and they contribute absolutely nothing to the story. No missions, no dialogue. They're background actors in a neighborhood Rockstar built to feel multicultural. They exist so Little Seoul doesn't feel empty. That's it. And honestly, that's the point. The Kangpe are forgotten because they were never designed to be remembered. They're set dressing, ambient detail, the kind of gang that makes Los Santos feel real without demanding attention. In GTA Online, they get some content. Heist setups, gang attacks, a whole mission series in the 2020 Los Santos Summer Special Update where you fight their boss on a yacht. But in the base game story, nothing. Zero. You walk past them 100 times and never notice. But that's the trap. Realism doesn't equal relevance. The Kangpe make the city feel alive, but they don't make the story feel complete, so players walk past them and forget. Because Rockstar never gave them a reason to look. Armenian Mob. And then there's the gang that tricks you into thinking it'll matter. Armenian Mob. Small crew, operates out of Rogers Salvage and Scrap in La Puerta. Brown leather jackets, dress suits, gold chains, thick accents. You see them early. Franklin works for Simeon Yatarian, an Armenian car dealer. Simeon has connections to them, they provide him protection. You encounter them in random events. You see them at the scrapyard. You drive past their turf near the docks, and then they vanish. They appear just enough to feel important, then dissolve into irrelevance. Most players assume they're a major faction because of that early visibility, but they're not. They're a red herring, a gang Rockstar used to add flavor to Franklin's early grind, then dropped the second the story moved on. The Armenian Mob shows up in exactly one story mission as background detail. The long stretch takes place at Rogers Salvage and Scrap, their base. But they're not involved in the mission. They just happen to own the location. In GTA Online, they get much more content starting in 2021. Money laundering operations, rival bosses, heist buyers, casino missions, but in the base game, almost nothing. Armenian Mob is the perfect example of a gang that should have mattered but didn't. They had proximity to main characters, they had early screen time, they had potential, and Rockstar chose to do nothing with it. Armenian Mob exists to show you that not every gang gets an arc. Some just fade, and Los Santos keeps spinning without them. Why Rockstar let them fade? So why build all these gangs just to ignore them? Because Los Santos isn't about gangs anymore. It's about chaos. In San Andreas, gangs were the structure. Grove Street versus Ballas. Aztecas versus Vagos. Turf mattered. Loyalty mattered. Colors mattered. The story was built around gang culture, so every set had weight. But GTA 5 isn't that game. It's about three criminals operating outside the system. Franklin leaves the hood. Trevor exists in the margins. Michael doesn't even acknowledge street gangs. The story moves vertically from the streets to the hills to the government. Gangs are the past. Heists are the future. So Rockstar kept the gangs, but only as set dressing. They're there so the neighborhoods feel lived in. So gunfire pops off when you cruise through Rancho. So Strawberry looks dangerous. So East LS feels different from Vinewood. But they're not characters, they're atmosphere. And that's the brilliance of it. These gangs don't need arcs to make the city work, they just need to exist. Rockstar designed a world where you can spend 300 hours in Los Santos and never once think about the Kangpe, the non-Grove families, or what happened to the Aztecas. Because the city moved on, and so did you. What they represent. These forgotten gangs aren't just narrative gaps, they're symbols. Together, these gangs represent the old Los Santos, the one that got priced out, pushed aside, forgotten, not by war. By the fact that the city doesn't need small-time corner crews anymore when billionaires are buying doomsday bunkers and private armies are running security contracts. So yeah, when these gangs faded, the city didn't really change that much. Police were already there, just doing their thing. If you're curious how law enforcement actually works in GTA 5, from regular street cops to the heavier units, I break all of that down in the next video.